All right, so this is a follow-up video to what I made about gender, which how many genders are there? You can go back and watch that video. Now, I knew that that video was gonna get a lot of comments, right? Because if conservatives are anything, they're very predictable. And I knew what comments I was going to get. I also knew that people weren't going to actually engage with the video. They were just gonna see the part that upset them and triggered them, and then they were gonna like log off and just make a comment and then leave without watching the whole video, so they wouldn't have any like the frame of reference. My mistake in making this video is I tried to condense it and make it short, and there's a lot of things I should have expanded on, but I didn't think that people were going to be that bad at engaging with the subject matter. That's my fault. That's my bad. I should have understood that the people who were going to be upset by this video would lack critical thinking and not be able to engage with anything without it being spoon-fed to them or having it being simplified even beyond what I thought was necessary. The biggest issue most people took with this video was this part. Now, a lot of people might quickly run to the dictionary and show you the definition of gender. I don't like to use definitions because that just shows that you don't have an understanding of the word you're trying to define. But also looking up the definition of gender supports the idea that gender and sex are not the same thing. So the reason I don't like to rely too much on definitions is because I find definitions are very limiting. I think I didn't clarify that. I didn't say that you should not use definitions. What I wanted people to do was not to hyper focus on thinking just the dictionary definition was enough. And even while I was saying that and saying that I don't think we should use the definition, I actually put the definition on the screen because I knew, like I said, very predictable of conservatives, I knew that there were going to be people who were going to laugh at that, point that out, and say that, make the snarky comments that they did about definitions. Oh, this guy doesn't like to use definitions and he doesn't blah, blah, blah. That's why I put it on the screen, and they didn't even bother to read it. They didn't even bother to read it. That's why I knew they were going to have that complaint. And I preempted that by putting the definition, even though I said I don't like to do that and it's not necessary, I did it anyways. And they still missed that part. How? I don't know. I just, again, critical thinking, patience. Everybody's got TikTok brain. They can only focus on something for 6 seconds and then they zap out like they're watching a Vine. I don't know. But I knew that was going to happen. And my argument for using definitions, and specifically the dictionary definition, is the fact that you should be able to describe something that is in common use without having to rely on the dictionary. We use dictionaries to define things that we are either unfamiliar with or unable to describe or define or explain to someone, right? If I told somebody, hey man, grab that chair for me, and they asked me, what do you mean, what's a chair, right? I wouldn't grab my dictionary and be like, here's the dictionary definition of a chair. No, I'd be like, chair, it's a piece of furniture that people typically sit on, right? It's usually made of wood, plastic, or metal even. But that's what I need you to get for me. I wouldn't need the dictionary because I know what a chair is. I just need to be able to describe it or even define it to somebody else, right? So that they could understand what I was saying. That was my argument for saying, don't use the dictionary definition. It was not to say that you can't trust the dictionary definition. It was just to say that a lot of times it limits the conversation because people throw up a definition or people use the definition of the dictionary and they think that answers the question, and it doesn't really, unless you understand it. You have to be able to engage with what the dictionary is saying, and that's what I tried to do. That's why I gave you my definition. Not to give you my definition as if my definition is better than the dictionary. It was because I wanted to show that I had an understanding of what the word meant. But since people like to use dictionary definitions, I will use the dictionary definition. We will go over this because I think this is important so people can see. Some people didn't read it even though I put it out. So I will now read it to show you that even the dictionary definition supports what I'm saying, that gender and sex are not the same, right? The dictionary definition supports what I'm saying, that gender and sex are not the same. The male sex or the female sex, especially when considered with reference to social and cultural differences rather than biological ones, or one of a range of other identities that do not correspond to established ideas of male and female. Then you can use it, as I go on to the video and explain, another way people use gender is in the grammatical sense, right? So in languages such as Latin, Greek, Russian, and German, each of the classes, typically masculine, feminine, common, neuter, of nouns and pronouns distinguished by the different inflections that they have and required in words syntactically associated with them, Grammatical gender is only very loosely associated with the distinction of sex. So, that is a dictionary definition of gender, right? But you can see how that's limiting when you're trying to engage in this idea beyond just what the definition says. The definition clearly says that it's more considered reference to social and cultural differences, which is what I was saying, right? Gender is a social construct. It's something that we made to kind of explain how sex manifests itself traditionally. And that explanation changes because as we've seen over time, what was socially acceptable between the genders has changed. And people know this. It's like anyone who engaged in the comments, there were a few people who engaged in good faith, but most people engaged in bad faith, right? Most people just either said, they just completely disengaged, they shut it down, they laughed, or they mocked me or whatever, but they didn't really engage. And the few that did, failed to see that we already know that gender and sex are not the same. If they could just be honest, they'd realize that we already have that understanding. That's why when you say gender roles, you're not talking about sex. One of the common gender roles between men and women is that, men go out to work and women stay at home and take care of the household, and, women are gonna cook and clean. Are women biologically better at cooking and cleaning? No. There's nothing about biology that makes you a better cook. There isn't, right? If that was the case, then only women would be good at cooking. And we have lots of examples to show that there are men who are fantastic at cooking, and men can clean. But that's not a biological thing. You can say that's a social thing, or something that's developed, that was influenced by biology at one point in time, right? People love to go back to when we were cavemen, the men would go out to hunt and the women would say, yeah, sure. When we were cavemen and we lived in caves, there's a reason why we don't still live in caves, right? There's a reason why we don't just use lanterns and candles. That's why we evolve. We use electricity. We use things. We modernize. And as we modernize, our dependency on these things change. So that shows it's not biological. We have not developed beyond our biology to need to sleep or to eat, right? No matter how much technology we have, we still need to eat and we still need to sleep. We haven't figured out how to change our biology to that point. But the fact that a man can cook and clean, that doesn't make him a woman. That doesn't make him better than a woman. That's just something that people can do. We can do that. We already understand that. But I don't know why people are so disingenuous when they get in the comments and they get so upset. It's like, what are you fighting against? Why are you so anti-intellectual? Why are you unable to engage with something critically? There's nothing complicated here. People keep laughing and be like, oh man, we're cooked. If this is what people are just changing definitions, we don't understand. We're cooked because you can't engage beyond a 6th grade understanding of what men and women are. You sound like that kid from Kindergarten Cop.
Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
We already understand that words evolve and change and the meanings and the context given what they're used. We already know this. We already do this. If you walk into a room of people, right, there's a mix of men and women in the room, and you're like, hey guys, you're not only speaking to the guys, you're speaking to everyone in that room, right? Even though there are women in that room, language has evolved to the point where we understand that when somebody says, hey guys, they're not only talking to guys, unless there is just a group of guys, and they are, but if there are women there, the women are like, oh, they're not talking to me. He said, hey guys, I'm not a guy. No, everyone would look and be like, hey, what's up? You'd also wouldn't walk into a room and be like, hey ladies, to encapsulate everyone, because we've accepted in society that hey guys can either apply to a group of people that are diverse or a singular group of all men. We already do this. We already do all these things. So people want to argue. There are people who want to just fight about something. And I think that comes from a fear of change. I think that comes from a fear of people wanting things to remain either how they remembered it or what they're comfortable with, and they don't want any progress. They don't want any change. To one level, I can understand that, right? But progress and change is not bad, right? It's not bad. It's not. There are changes that happen that are bad, but progress is usually a good thing. It is. And if you stop trying to fight it because you are afraid that you will lose your place when the change happens, just evolve with everybody else. But just be careful that when people are anti-intellectualism, when people are anti-progress, when people are anti-change, that should shoot up a red flag, because you should ask yourself, why are those people so afraid of that change? What is it that they're fighting against? And then you need to be clear on that.